Welcome to the Staying in Bounds podcast. This is your boy Corey Randall. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment, follow. I have a channel on YouTube as well as streaming on Spotify and different podcast outlets like Google Podcasts. I'm on Anchor and Apple Podcasts as well. So let's get into it. So for today's segment, I'm going to be discussing the NBA trade deadline. All the trades that took place at the deadline on Thursday afternoon. It was very chaotic, very crazy. There were 16 trades. There were 23 teams involved and 46 roster players involved. This is the most ever in each category in the past 35 years on deadline day. So that's how you know it was crazy. So what I wanted to discuss with the trade deadline were the winners of the trade deadline for me. When I look at it, one of the teams I wanted to discuss, this is in no particular order of me listing these teams. I'm just going to start talking. So one of the teams I want to talk about was the Thunder. The Thunder, they're 13th seed in the Western Conference. They're not that far from, being able to make the playoffs, but they probably will not. And they probably will not give a damn if they do anyway. At the trade deadline, they were able to acquire 4 picks. They were able to trade Trevor Ariza over to the Heat. And they acquired Myers Leonard, who, they're waiving anyway. And we're also able to acquire shooter Svi Mykhailiuk. He's a great shooter. But the crazy thing about them is why I said that they were winners. They were able to get 4 more picks, which now they have a total of 34 future draft picks. That is beyond crazy. They're kind of in a way like imitating, how Danny Ainge was with the Celtics getting all those picks from the Nets when they had traded away, Paul Pierce and KG and them. But even better, 34 picks. That's a whole draft and then some. That is beyond crazy. So that's why I have them as one of the winners, because they're building for a bright future. They got a lot of young players on the roster, and they're headed in the right direction after, first losing KD and then, trading away Russell Westbrook and also, early on, obviously, James Harden, but Serge Ibaka and, being able to acquire Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Clippers. They had CP3 and they're able to get a lot of pieces in return and with these a lot of assets in return, I should say. So this is great for them. The next team is the Nuggets. The Nuggets are 5th seed and they made moves. They're not playing. They had the first 2 rounds last season. They were down, 3-1, came back and won 4-3. They're not playing. They at the trade deadline, they traded away Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a future first round pick, and they acquired Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark. Aaron Gordon is, he's a solid piece. I have him as, the second best player on the Magic when he was there. Obviously, Nikola Vucevic was the best player. But Aaron Gordon brings a different dynamic to the game, different athleticism, and he only averaged about 14 points per game with the Magic this season. But he's going to be playing with, one of the best passers. Some people may say or argue that he is the best passer in Nikola Jokic, who's going to find him on lobs and easy baskets, and the game's going to be a lot easier for him than the players he was surrounded with on the Magic. They were also able to obtain JaVale McGee from the Cavs. JaVale McGee has 3 rings. He won 2 in 2017, 2018 with the Warriors, and he won in 2020 this past season with the Lakers. So he has 3 rings. He's a vet. He's experienced. He's athletic. He's long. He's 7-footer, and he's gonna help in that second unit, especially with them losing out on Mason Plumlee to the Pistons. He's definitely gonna fill those shoes very well. They ended up giving up Isaiah Hartenstein and 2 future second round picks to the Cavs. So they're 5th seed right now. They can easily go up, especially with the Lakers having LeBron James and Anthony Davis sidelined. Nuggets can easily move up into, the top 3-4 seeds. Now, when you look at the Heat, it's the next team talking about the Heat. They're an 8th seed. The Heat acquired Victor Oladipo. That's the biggest headline. They acquired Victor Oladipo and were really able to do it with for losing nothing for them. Like, Pat Riley is a godfather. His rings all over his damn fingers. He pulls all the cards. He can do whatever. And he knew with the Rockets, he knew how desperate the Rockets were to get rid of Victor Oladipo, because Victor Oladipo was not going to re-sign with the Rockets this offseason, and he was going to walk away. Rockets were going to get nothing. So he knew how to wait to the last minute and play hard to get. And the Heat only gave up Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and they had a 2022 draft pick swap. Avery Bradley has only played 10 games so far this season. First, he was out with COVID, and then he had a right calf strain that's had him sidelined. And then Kelly Olynyk, he's played solid, as a stretch 4-5 man. He's 7-footer, solid player. But they were able to get Victor Oladipo with that, and they knew that the Rockets were heavy onto Duncan Robinson, were not able to acquire him. And so the Heat were basically able to keep all of their really, really key assets and players and stars and everything, and still add another player in the quality of Victor Oladipo. The Heat also acquired Nemanja Bjelica, and he's gonna be able to fill the shoes well of where Olynyk was, because he's 6'11". He's a shooter. He's only shooting 29.3% from three this year, but he shot over 40% from three the previous 3 seasons, and 38.8% for his career from beyond the arc. And he's going to be able to fill those shoes well. He's not as great off the dribble as Olynyk is with, driving to the basket and creating his shot, because he's not as athletic, but he can still shoot the hell out of the ball. And the Heat were able to acquire him from the Kings, with only giving up Mo Harkless, who wasn't really in rotation, as well as Chris Silva. This was before the trade deadline, but the Heat were able to acquire Trevor Ariza, like I stated earlier, from the Thunder, and only had to give up Myers Leonard in a 2027 second round pick, which is honestly nothing, especially with Myers Leonard's anti-Semitic comments. But Trevor Ariza, he's 35 years old, but he's still a great defender. He's a great shooter. He's an upgrade on the perimeter over Mo Harkless. And he's somebody who's very durable and is on the court, and he'll provide them with a lot of defensive assignments, along with like Iguodala, and they have a lot of like wing defenders. So the Heat definitely did a great job at the deadline, and they should be moving up in the standings coming in this push to the playoffs. And the next team I want to talk about is the Clippers. Clippers are 3rd seed. The Clippers acquired what I spoke about on my segment of Leave It on the Court with my friend Mustafa. I said one of the players the Clippers need to go after is Rajon Rondo, and they were able to acquire him. They acquired Rondo, which is phenomenal. They needed another playmaker, another dynamic playmaker outside. Kawhi on this team was the best passer. That's not going to get them the championship, because they need somebody else who can also create for others and not putting so much pressure on him to do so much on that end. So getting Rondo is huge. They had to give up Lou Williams, who, is one of the best, arguably the best six man of all time, however you want to put it. They gave up a couple future second round picks and cash considerations, but getting Rondo is huge. He was on the Hawks, wasn't really fitting in the rotation, but he was key to the Lakers last season, because last season, before he was injured a lot of the time during the season, they didn't play well in the bubble for those remaining 8 games or so, and when he was out, they were struggling because LeBron had to make all the plays, because Anthony Davis isn't creating for anybody else. And then once the playoffs came, and he played, once Rondo was able to play in the second round, he came and he's able to run the second unit and take pressure off LeBron with getting guys open. So that's huge. So good job for the Clippers. And hopefully, that can keep Kawhi to stay there and not want to leave. But, we'll see how it goes in the playoffs. It'll be interesting, though, because the Clippers are having Rajon Rondo and Pat Bev. They're both menaces on defense. They talk a lot of trash. They want to punk you, so it'd be funny to see them on the court together, especially if they play against like the Lakers or something. Next team is Blazers. Blazers are a 6th seed. They acquired Norman Powell. So they relieved, they traded away Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Trading away Rodney Hood wasn't that big of a deal for me because he wasn't really contributing that much. And ever since his injury, like this season, he just seems a bit slow and not shooting the ball well, just not doing all that well. Gary Trent, though, stings a bit. He's, barely only 22 years old. He's a really great shooter. He was shooting 39.7% from 3 this season. He's averaging 15. But Norman Powell is definitely an upgrade. Norman Powell is only 27, still early in his prime. And he's one of the most efficient players in the entire league. I mean, he's shooting, 49.8% from the field. And I'm giving like the Raptors stats of what he had so far this season since he only played one game with the Blazers. But yeah, he's shooting 49.8% from the overall from the field, 43.9% from 3. And he only takes 13.5 shots per game, as he was doing with the Raptors. He's averaging about 20, to be exact, at 19.6. And he's a very versatile defender. That's something that's going to help them. Gary Trent was building his way into being a solid defender, but Norman Powell's already proven in that regard. And, he has championship experience. He won in 2019 when Kawhi was there and the Raptors beat the Warriors. He was on that team, key contributor. But he's just a very efficient player. And just from 2-point land all around, whether it's mid-range, driving in, he shoots 55.2% from 2-point range. So that's great for them. And he showed out well last night against the Magic. Damian Lillard was out sidelined with knee contusion, but Nurkic came back. And Norman Powell, he had 22 points, 7 of 13 shooting, and he's 5 of 7 from 3, 2 steals and a block. Like, he showed out and played very well. And so that's key for them, but it's definitely an upgrade for the Blazers. And I think he's somebody for Blazers' future, just keep going forward. And also his 19.6 points per game is also career high, so he's really, really coming into his own. And, definitely somebody to keep for the future for the team. But Gary Trent Jr., the complications with that too is this offseason he was going to end up, probably getting a pretty good contract, and the Blazers probably wouldn't be able to match and then lose him for nothing. So I think this is definitely an upgrade all around for the team. But last but not least, we have the Bulls. For the winners, who are a 10th seed, they were able to acquire Nikola Vucevic. Nikola Vucevic is a star, man. He's a 20-10 guy, all-star player, and he's going to be legit outside threat for Zach LaVine. This is a great move if you want to keep Zach LaVine on the Bulls, or else he's would have gone elsewhere because he's really breaking his back carrying his team. But Nikola Vucevic is averaging career high 24.5 points per game, shooting 48% overall, and career high 40.6% from 3. He's a great free throw shooter at 82.7%. He's averaging 11.8 rebounds, which is near his career high of averaging 12. I think that was huge. They also got Al-Farouq Aminu in the deal. We'll see how he pans out with the team. But they traded away Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., 2 first-round picks, which I wouldn't worry about when you're getting a star like Nikola Vucevic. And then having him next to Lauren Markkanen is gonna be great. You got 2 7-footers who can spread the floor and get rebounds down low. Hopefully they can, protect the rim a bit better, as Bulls need help on that end. But these are the teams, that stuck out to me, the trade deadline, as far as being aggressive, making moves, and being successful in that regard. And I think it'll make a big difference. I think teams like the Bulls will be able to make a stronger playoff push from the 10th seed and sneak their way in there past a team like the Pacers or, another team. Blazers should move up with Norman Powell. Clippers should be a lot better with having another playmaker like Rondo. The Heat stacked up. Victor Oladipo should fit in nice with that team. And then when you look at the Nuggets made some nice moves. And then the Thunder's future is crazy bright ahead of them because they have assets to get whatever they want moving forward over the next several years. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams do. But those are my winners for the NBA trade deadline. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's your boy Corey Randall. Thank you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, and follow me on all platforms. And thank you. Have a good one. Deuces.